Welcome in, everybody. I am Benjamin Parker. It is so good to have you with us today. No matter what platform you're watching on, you might be watching Phantom Sports YouTube, or you might be on the Sports and Money YouTube, kind of a collaborative effort. We are joined by Robertson Byer tonight. Robertson, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Ben. I'm doing great.
I'm doing great. We're here on the outset of a project that we have spent, I don't know, weeks thinking about and working on, and it's quarterbacks. We are offering a quarterback rankings list. We're going to cover about 50 guys. We're going to start at the bottom of the list, number 50, work our way up. We may not rank every single guy. I think you have every guy ranked. I think I kind of have them in buckets and clusters and things like that. Well, we're going to cover them. If we think they have a chance to be any kind of relevant in the next season, we're going to cover them today. So I'm excited. Robertson, you ready for it?
Man, I'm so ready to start this list.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Robertson's going to get us started here. I'm assuming you have a number 50. If you do, go ahead and start there on the bottom and get us going.
Yeah, number 50 might shock some people. I actually have Jordan Love at number 50. Um, when he was drafted, I thought instantly this guy is either going to be the next best thing or he's going to be out of the league in 3 years. And so far, we're kind of trending towards that second option there. Um, because if the Packers had anything in Jordan Love, I feel like Aaron Rodgers would have already moved on from Aaron Rodgers. And that's hard. That's a hard discussion to have considering he's won back-to-back MVPs, but considering he hasn't been able to get the job done in the postseason, and he costs so much money, and he's pretty much running he's trying to be a pseudo GM like a LeBron James, where he's like, no, I want this guy, I want this guy, and I want this guy. I want you to draft this guy. And he's not always getting his way, but usually he is. you know, that's something hard for a team like the Packers to deal with. And I feel like if Jordan Love offered anything close to being competitive, we would have already seen him on the field. Because there were talks about, Rodgers potentially getting traded, and they would have got a haul for him, if he was willing to go somewhere else instead of, being kind of the crybaby he is at times. They would have gotten a haul back for him. They could have rebuilt this roster, built around Jordan Love, but they've opted not to do that. And I feel like that speaks volumes about the quarterback that they think they have. Obviously, we won't know until Jordan Love actually gets out there on the field, starting significant amount of games. Because I think we've only seen him in like one or two relief appearances. So it's hard to gauge him, but I struggle ranking him really any higher. I actually debated even putting him on this list because he's such a boom or bust guy to where he's at this point leaning so much towards bust where again we don't know if he's even going to be in the league in another year or two. Um, at 49, I have Malik Willis. Um, you know, the potential there again, another guy like Jordan Love where I think this guy has all the potential in the world. People are saying that he was the next right-handed Michael Vick. If that's the case, then this guy's going to shoot up this list very quickly. If not, he's going to be where he is or even lower. So we're going to see about that. Obviously, he's a rookie. There's not much I can talk about. Um, Same with my 48. I have Kenny Pickett there. Um, More refined as a quarterback. Played in a more pro style offense in college. Again, hasn't played that much. Um, I think it's a kind of a testament that he was the only selection or a quarterback selection in the first round in this year's draft, and it was at I believe number 20 overall. So a lot of people weren't sold on him. So that's why I kind of have him this low. We don't know what he's going to be. I think the potential's there, but we need to see it, obviously. 47, I have Blaine Gabbert, solid backup. You know, I feel like a team would feel pretty comfortable that he's going to keep the ship steady if the starter were to go down. Same with my number 46, I have Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen, I've always been kind of high on, even during his time in Carolina. I feel like he hasn't exactly gotten a fair shot. I feel like he's overperformed than what he was when he came into this league. He's been a solid guy that you can turn to. He's not going to win you a lot of games because of him, but he's also not gonna like, he's not gonna wet the bed either. I feel like he's at this point, he's a steady guy that I still think has some potential should he be, a starter for a few games due to injury if he was a starter for a long term. So I was fine in 2020 when he was the Commanders quarterback. And I know he didn't play extremely well, but I still feel like he could have done some stuff. So I was kind of excited about Kyle Allen. Number 45, I got Joe Flacco, a veteran guy, can run an NFL offense. Not the best quarterback, but definitely he still has a good arm at this stage in his career. He has a good arm. He's been to the playoffs multiple times. He's been playoff Joe. He's been Joe Cool. Um, so maybe not a backup for a contender, but a solid backup you can turn to. 44, Colt McCoy. Again, kind of the same story, not as far as accolades go, but a guy that you can just turn to. He's gonna perform well. He's gonna keep the ship steady. We saw it last year in Arizona where he started up with I think a couple games, and he played pretty well. A lot of people probably weren't expecting that. So I feel like Colt McCoy is one of the premier backups in this league. Um, so I have him at 44. At 43, I have Trey Lance. It's kind of the same with Jordan Love, only with a lot more upside, in my opinion, and a lot more talent. Um, we just don't know what we're going to get from him. He's this high ceiling guy that if he booms, he's going to be probably in the top 5 in the next couple of years. But if he busts, again, it's the same story as Jordan Love. We wouldn't be shocked if he's in the NFL, if he's not in the NFL in a couple of years. So jury's still out on him, obviously. At 42, I have Sam Darnold. A really big fall from grace, in my opinion. A guy that a few years ago was supposed to be at the top pick in the draft, fell a couple spots down to the Jets. The Jets ruined him to an extent, but was he the right guy to begin with? It doesn't seem like it. He got another opportunity in Carolina, didn't do much with it. So much so that the Panthers were pretty much begging for anything else, but they just kind of lost out on this quarterback carousel. And they traded for the guy that got drafted ahead of him. So in Baker Mayfield. So I'm not really convinced that Sam Darnold's going to be in the league that much longer either. He probably will be due to his draft status, and it's a name drop, something to get some fans excited about. But if I was a fan of the Panthers, I wouldn't be excited about Sam Darnold starting. 41, I have Drew Lock. Some people probably might criticize me for keeping him this low, but the talent is there, the maturity is not, and I question whether he can lead a team. I actually really liked him coming out of his draft. I forget what year it was, but I actually really liked him. I think I had him second on my board. It's just, again, it's been one of those disappointments since he's gotten into this league, and I just don't know that you can ever build a team around him. I think if you had him as a backup, you'd question whether he can steady the ship, but I just think on talent alone, he's better than a lot of these guys on the list, or the names I mentioned so far. And then at 40, I have Cam Newton. Talent is there. Arm, maybe not so much anymore, but with his last year with the Patriots, like his full-time starter, he ran for I think like 12 touchdowns, something like that. And I want to say like 600 yards, something like that. I mean, he was dynamic still with his legs. He won an MVP. I still think he can be a quarterback in this league. Maybe not a starter, but who knows? Maybe he catches on somewhere and has a short-lived revival. I would still trust him as a backup I would trust him to start a few games. So I got him at 40, and that's my first 10 on my list.
And we'll say the same thing about this as we'll say about probably the next tier that we're looking at. These guys are all really close. We are splitting hairs here, and we know it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about it. Those of you in the audience who are like, hey, number 50 should be number 41. Yeah, they're all almost interchangeable. Okay. So, for me personally, the people you listed, I was probably 9 of the 10, I'm almost in total agreement with you on. Very little. Probably the biggest difference for me would be the Sam Darnold. So I'll start with that one. Do I want Sam Darnold as my starter going into the season? No, I don't. That time has passed. I'm not sure I ever did, but certainly any real hope for me that he's going to be a capable starter in the future, at least, until he proves otherwise, that hope is gone. But I personally would probably have Sam Darnold somewhere around number 30, 32, somewhere in there. And that would basically be where your backup starts. So I would like to have Sam Darnold as my backup as long as he doesn't cost too much. And to me, costing too much basically means anything more than about $5, $6, $7 million a season. So am I going to pay $15 or $20 million a season for him? No way. Absolutely not. No chance. But if I can get him on the cheap, somewhere around $4, $5, $6 million and have him as a backup, I'm okay with that. That's fine there. So again, you could drop him all the way to 40, which you had him, I think, at number 42, and whatever. We're splitting hairs here. The other two guys that stood out, not that I disagreed with you on them, but just because they were interesting to me, are Trey Lance and Jordan Love. Both of these guys have sat on the bench for their entire career, just about. And the longer they sit on the bench, you start to kind of wonder, are they ever going to get off that bench? And I think that's especially true for Jordan Love, because that's almost exactly where I have him. And I think that's starting to kind of dawn on a lot of people here as we're waiting. A guy can only be a project for so long in the NFL, and then he's just not going to play. And that's what's starting to happen with Trey Lance. They could have moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo had they really, really wanted to, but they didn't. They kept Garoppolo, money and all, and he's not cheap. They kept Garoppolo, and they've got Trey Lance sitting on the bench. So you start to look at both of these guys and you start to wonder, are they ever actually gonna, maybe at some point they get a backup role and they get to play a couple of games a season, but are they ever going to make their mark in the NFL? It's starting to look like maybe that's not going to happen. And I'm in agreement with you on both of those guys there, especially on Jordan Love, because you're right. The Packers, if they really had something in Jordan Love, they could have traded Aaron Rodgers for a bajillion draft picks. And they could have gotten all kinds of cap relief. And they could have had a very competitive team next year, maybe even a team that would win the Super Bowl if Jordan Love were really ready to play and if he were really that good. But apparently he's not. And, it was before Aaron Rodgers signed his new deal, I was even hearing people talk about, well, the Packers can trade Jordan Love and get some decent draft picks. I'm not sure they could. That would be – that would almost be a Belichickian trade there to have that many people fooled into what you think that you might have. It's something the Packers did do before. I can't remember the quarterback's name, but basically the guy threw for like 350 yards in one game in the middle of the season about a decade ago, and they flipped him over to Seattle before Russell Wilson showed up in Seattle. But that's not going to work anymore. So I'm right there with you on basically all of these people. And the only difference being Sam Darnold, I think I would toss him in as somebody that I would like to have as my backup. So, all right. That's your just barely in 10, right? Just barely into the top 50. That brings us into your next tier.
Yeah, that name you're looking for was Matt Flynn.
Right, that's the guy.
That's a bit of a throwback there. A guy that's a lot forgotten. He was like one of those like unicorns in the regular season. Like, man, every time he comes in, he just does well. And then as soon as he starts, he's crap. But you were right. Those 10 guys, they're interchangeable. If you want to rank someone higher or lower, I'm not really going to argue with you. A theme of this series is going to be, I got to put these guys somewhere. That's a theme that you're going to notice very quickly. So again, you're splitting hairs. I'm not going to complain if you want to put Jordan Love at 40 and Cam Newton at 50. I might disagree with you, but I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to talk a ton about it. So, all right, on to the next list. These are still kind of like these backups, but you feel a little better inside about it. You're like, okay, I feel a little bit more confident. Um, Number 39, Tyler Huntley, the backup for the Ravens, played very, very well last year in his short time when Lamar Jackson got injured. Probably better than a lot of people expected. Definitely better than I expected. There were even rumblings like, hey, this guy could maybe even be a starter. You know, you get the right offense, you get the right coach, you get the right pieces around him. He could maybe make some noise in this league. I think that's kind of doubtful, but you know, I think the Ravens are very comfortable with him as their backup. And I think a lot of teams would like to have a guy like that as their backup. So I got him at 39 there. At 38, I have Jacoby Brissett, another guy where, you know, you feel good about him being your backup. And you also think, you know what, maybe if he were to get into this, you know, to start a few games, maybe there might be something there. I've been a fan of Brissett's since his New England days. I really liked him, you know, when he got traded to the Colts, I think, and he started there. I think that, you know, the Colts were just a mess at that point, and that he kind of got an unfair shot. I feel like he was on a lot better team and had better development. He'd be maybe a starter still in this league, maybe not. I don't know, but I liked his time in Indy. You know, his time in Miami didn't go very well, but you know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. If I was the Browns right now, I'd feel fortunate that I have Jacoby Brissett on my team. You know, that's just my opinion on him. I'd like to rank him higher, but you know, I have some of these other backups that I feel like I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with. Um, that brings me into number 37, Tyrod Taylor. I know that he's not going to give away the game, and I know that he is a leader. He's, you know, he's going to be a guy that you can trust. Um, you know, he has his downfalls, but a lot of these guys do, especially in this portion of the list. So I feel like you know exactly what you're getting with Tyrod Taylor, and you know if you're the Giants right now, you got to really consider whether you got to start Tyrod or Daniel Jones if winning is everything. Like if it came down to it, if you put some truth serum in these Giants coaches, I really wonder what they'd say. I'd be more inclined to say that they would say Tyrod Taylor, but you know they kind of have to go with Daniel Jones. But you'll see shortly that Daniel Jones is not far ahead of Tyrod Taylor, at least on my list. At 36 here, I have Nick Foles. Um, you know, kind of the dream backup when you think about it. Like this guy can just come in and win you a Super Bowl and a couple playoff games, whether that's like you know the Philly special or something else. I don't know, but he doesn't seem to do that well anywhere else. But at the same time, I trust him more than I trust most of the other backups in this league. And that's because what he's done in the postseason, he's been in the big moment and he's not scared of it at all. He steps up and he gives it his all. So, and I admire that. And he's put together some pretty impressive seasons despite, you know, some of the collapses we've seen. So I like Nick Foles. I got him as one of my best backups in the league. And I don't think many people would necessarily challenge me on that. Number 35, I think our first starter on the list, Davis Mills. Um, I like Davis Mills a lot, and I wish he was higher up on my list here. But at this point, I think I trust. And also, a theme of this series is who do you trust right now? And let's say I don't trust Davis Mills, but he was a rookie last year. I think he was a rookie last year.
I think so, but I would have to go back and look that up.
He was either a rookie or he was a second year guy. But either way, I really like Davis Mills. I don't trust him as much as some of the other backups. I don't trust a lot of the rookies from last year in comparison to some of the backups, but you know, their talent kind of transcends the backups. Davis Mills, I don't believe that's the case. I think his talent level is around pretty close to some of the backups that are in this range. And I don't, like I said, I trust some of the backups more. So I got him at 35, but I am very excited for him. I wish he had an opportunity elsewhere than Houston because I think he has a lot to offer. But, you know, unfortunately, it is what it is. 34, I got Case Keenum. Again, kind of like Nick Foles. He's won a lot of games. He's been in some big moments, and he hasn't backed down. Again, when he's a full-time starter, he's not all that great, but he's great in some spot starts. Number 33, I have Daniel Jones, another starter on the list. That's not in the top 32. Um, a guy that was overdrafted, has been kind of overhyped as Danny Dimes, which, I can't really stand that name, but, it's not necessarily my Washington bias. It's just kind of like, this guy has some talent. He has some leadership qualities, I think, and he has suffered due to the turmoil in the Giants organization, as far as they can't get the coaching staff right. And of course, when you have Jason Garrett as your head coach, just ask Dak Prescott how that was. It probably wasn't very fun. I feel bad for the guy in some ways. In other ways, I'm kind of like, I don't think this guy is going to ever really amount to anything. He'll be a backup in short order, I'm pretty sure. Number 32, I have Andy Dalton. I've always been an Andy Dalton fan. Um, I think his time in Cincinnati was kind of underappreciated to a point because, when Carson Palmer left, they were kind of like in the dumps there for a little bit, I want to say. And then Andy Dalton pulled him back out, and he had some success on maybe teams that shouldn't have been as successful as they were. He overcame a lot of stuff. His time in Dallas wasn't great, but it was good enough to keep them somewhat competitive until he went down with an injury. If you want to talk about a perfect backup, it's a guy that's been there, done that. Andy Dalton's been to the playoffs. He's been successful. He's won some games. That's a guy that you want as your backup. So I got him at 32. I still think he could start in this league. He probably wouldn't be one of the better ones, but I still think he could be a starter in this league if he needed to. I think a team would feel pretty comfortable with that. Number 31, I got my guy here, Taylor Heinicke. Man, I love this dude. He is small and he is fierce, and nothing phases this guy. And God, I love that about him. And he just pulls stuff out of his what. And I don't know how he does it. But then he just makes other plays where it's like, dude, what are you doing? And going back to that trust thing, it's very hard to trust Taylor Heinicke. But I know if he's in the game that I have a chance. And that's all that you can ask for from a backup or even a starter in this league, that you have a chance to win the game, or that on the final drive you need this drive, you need a touchdown here, or you need to get in field goal range, that you have a chance with the guy out there. And I think Taylor Heinicke gives you that, even though he hasn't played a ton in this league. I think he's proven over the past season in a couple games that he's a guy that can do that for you. And so I have him at 31. I think he is one of the 32 best quarterbacks. His athleticism, I think, goes a little under the radar a little bit. He's pretty fast, for a small white guy. He's pretty fast. He has a noodle arm. I'll give you that. But, like I said, this dude just makes things happen, and I don't think even he understands how. So I got him at 31, and that's my next tier of guys there.
And once again, we're not even really talking to the guys who probably none of these guys should be starting. If they were starting, you'd probably be looking for upgrades every off season. But we're talking about guys who are somewhere in that backup role, and maybe in one season, maybe 2 seasons, you had to start them because of the way things have worked out for your team. That's kind of where we are now. And some of these guys are interchangeable. I think one name stands out on that list to me that's interesting to talk about. For me, it's Daniel Jones. I don't disagree with you at all. I've got him just about right where you had him in terms of numbers. Daniel Jones is a guy for me who I'd be fine if he was my backup and if he does not cost me much money. But I think for me personally, and apparently not for the Giants because they've still got him, but I think for me personally, for a lot of people, the time where you hope that he would be a good starter in this league has kind of come and gone. And I think people questioned it a lot right from the get-go. You mentioned it, probably drafted too high. They took a chance. It didn't work out. Daniel Jones is a guy who maybe they thought he had the it factor. That's really the only way I could explain it. He runs a little, but not much. He can throw a little, but not much. He's a little accurate, but not much. He's also got a little bit of injury problems. And you're just kind of left at the end of the day thinking, well, this is my backup. This is not my starter. And, unfortunately, the Giants basically put everything they had on him being their starter 4 seasons ago now. So it is fascinating to where these guys can fall, how much they can fall. I've got Daniel Jones right in there, that backup quarterback. Not even the best backups. I think to me, two of the best backups are Colt McCoy and you mentioned Nick Foles. I think those are two of the better guys that you basically know they're not going to start, and they're a backup, but you feel pretty good about it if that's your backup. It's like, man, we can get through 4 to 6 games this way. We probably don't win a Super Bowl, Nick Foles notwithstanding, unless we've got a really good roster. But maybe we get a chance to get into the playoffs, pull off a playoff win, keep our jobs. We all come back next season, we give it another go again. So that's kind of where I like Nick Foles, Colt McCoy, and Daniel Jones is somewhere right in tucked in behind there for me personally. All right, I think you've got maybe 5, 6, 7 guys left on this particular next tier that you've got. So go ahead and walk us through it.
So this tier for me are guys that either haven't proven it yet, or I think they could be in for some, they can resurrect their careers in their current spot. Number 30, or maybe like in a different spot. Like I think their careers aren't over yet. They're not defined backups. Like, they're not good. They have a chance to like erase that moniker about them. Number 30, I have Gardner Minshew. I think he can start this league. I just think he needs to be, given the opportunity, for a team to say, hey, we need you to start this year. We're drafting a rookie, a project rookie like a Jordan Love or a Trey Lance. We need you to start for a season and a half to wait for this guy to get ready. And we're going to put some pieces around you because you're not going to cost much. The rookie's not going to cost much. We need you to just handle business, and we'll see what you got. And if a team were to ever to do that with Gardner Minshew, I don't think they would regret it at all. I really like him. Unfortunately, I think he's still on the Eagles, and I hate that because if Hurts ever goes down, then I think I'm in trouble. But I really like Gardner Minshew. Like I said, if a team were to ever invest in him, I don't think they'd be disappointed. 29. Okay, so I just want to say 29, 28, 27. These are 3 of the second-year guys. They were rookies last year. They were on bad teams, and I don't fault them for it, but also can't give them any credit because they just had very iffy at best rookie seasons. And that would be 29 Justin Fields, 28 Zach Wilson, and 27 Trevor Lawrence. Again, this is more of a tier thing for me. I feel like you can lump them together and say, okay, you guys have the skill, you guys have the talent. We just need to see it on the field. And it's not a slight against them. Like I said, they're on bad teams. Some of them may never get the opportunity to because, as you said in a video in the future, Justin Fields has a very raw deal. He's on a team that just doesn't seem to care much that he's in pretty much quarterback hell right now. He has no offensive line. He has very limited weapons and an aging defense. And granted, we're in a weak NFC, but are you really going to make noise in the NFC North? That's doubtful, and you're probably not going to make the wild card. So I feel bad for Justin Fields. Zach Wilson, I feel like, has the opportunity to explode this season just because of the resources that the Jets have put into the offense and to the team in general. I could see them winning 6, 7 games this season. And Zach Wilson could be, winning them games. He's a bit of a gunslinger, so that kind of worries me a bit. But overall, I'm not too worried just because I like I said, I need to see more, and I don't know exactly how these next couple seasons are going to go with these guys. Trevor Lawrence, same thing. I feel like they invested a lot of resources into the offense. He's giving Travis Etienne back. I'm very excited for that. I love Travis Etienne at Clemson, and I feel like once he gets him back, they're going to start rolling. But again, I need to see it on the field before I can start giving them credit for this stuff. Number 26 through 24, again, these guys that I feel like their careers aren't over yet. That if a team, it kind of similar to Gardner Minshew, like, hey, we're going to draft a rookie for a while, and these guys, we just need you to handle business, and we'll see where you go from here. 26, I have Marcus Mariota. He's in that situation right now, but unfortunately, I think the Falcons are just so terrible right now that he's not going to get a fair shot. But we'll see what he does. I've always been a Marcus Mariota fan. I'm excited to see what he can do. Hopefully, he can resurrect things there in Atlanta. 25, I have Mitch Trubisky. Again, a similar situation where he has Kenny Pickett behind him. I don't know how long he can keep Kenny Pickett off the field. Not saying that Pickett's a pro-ready guy that's gonna explode onto the scene or anything, but I feel like with a lot of these quarterbacks now, you can't keep them on the bench unless they're absolute projects. And I don't really see Kenny Pickett as a project guy, like a Trey Lance or Jordan Love would be. He's not like one of those raw guys. He's more pro-ready than a lot of the other guys that were coming out of this draft. So I feel like the Steelers want to see what they have sooner rather than later, especially in this really tough AFC. If we get 4 games in and they're 1-3, 0-4, maybe not to the detriment of Mitch Trubisky, but it's just a tough conference. It's very possible. And they might say, okay, we've seen enough, send out the rookie. But should they go 4-0? Should they, go 3-1 even? And Mitch Trubisky is playing very well. Maybe he keeps Kenny Pickett sidelined for a little bit longer and, keeps him on the bench, maybe even the entire season. I don't see a scenario where that happens, even if they are playing well. But, again, we'll see. Number 24, I have Teddy Bridgewater. I know he's backing up Tua, but Tua has a penchant to see him for getting injured. So I think he's going to see the field eventually. And man, does Miami have weapons. Whew. They got weapons. I would have loved to see Teddy Bridgewater have a Tyreek Hill type player in Minnesota, when he was still in his athletic prime. I would have loved to have seen that. And I know Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have the best arm in the world, but I'm excited, and I'm not wishing Tua injured. I would never wish any player injured. But should Tua get injured or benched, I'd be very excited for Teddy Bridgewater. And it's ironic because at number 23, I have Tua Tagovailoa. I got him there. He's got to do better, man. I still think he can prove himself this season because of all the weapons that they have. I think that he does have a pretty decent team around him, but again, he's in a tough AFC. He's in a tough division now because you have Mac Jones with the Patriots. You have Josh Allen on the Bills. Now like I mentioned a little bit earlier, you have Zach Wilson on the Jets, and the Jets retooled their offense a pretty good bit. You're in a tough division now. You're potentially the 4th best quarterback in your division. So it's going to be tough for Tua. I could see the Dolphins making a run this season, but Tua's going to have to play lights out.
All right. And I think that pretty much cuts off your people for this tier for this video, correct? At number 23 right there.
It does, yes.
All right. Now I'm gonna start, I think, with Marcus Mariota. I'll add him to the list of, let's call them Uber backups. All right. I'm not a fan of Mariota being your starter, but what have the Falcons gotten to lose?
Right.
If he plays great, they win a lot of games and the fans are happy. If he's not able to elevate this rather pathetic roster, then oh well, they get the draft picks and maybe they get a chance at a replacement quarterback that they actually like. So they got nothing to lose either way here. All right. Marcus Mariota, though, all joking aside, I probably would not want him being my starter heading into the season. But I would love him being my backup. Last time I checked, he's somewhere around $5-6 million a season. He might be a little bit less than that now. But I love him being my backup. I think he gives me a chance, with a decent roster. If I'm looking to make a playoff run, and all of a sudden we got 6-7 games to go before the playoffs get here, he gives me a chance. So I like Mariota there. I'll toss him into the Uber backup role with Nick Foles and with Colt McCoy. I lump them right in there together. So again, I'm right there with you on Marcus Mariota. There are two guys that there are three guys that aren't on your list at all. Two of them I know exactly why they're not on the list. I think I know why the other guy's not on your list. I'll toss in two rookies that I think would be somewhere in my top 50. Again, who knows where. I would love to have at least see Desmond Ridder get a chance. I think he's got a big enough arm. I think he's got enough athleticism. I'm not convinced. Matter of fact, I would not have drafted him in the first round, probably not the second. So I'm not convinced he can be a starter in this league, but I would at least like to see him get the chance. And at some point he will. If Mariota gets injured, or maybe next year, Ridder will get the chance to show what he can do. But I would like to see him at least get the chance to show what he can do. And then Matt Corral. Matt Corral obviously had the devastating injury. I'm not convinced that Corral is going to be an awesome starter in this league, but there again, I would like to see him get the chance. So I would toss those two somewhere in the top 50, even though I know why. Because they're rookies, they've proved nothing that you don't have them in there. The other guy I think that probably has that I don't think is on your list is on my list is Geno Smith. Do I want Geno Smith to be my starter going into the season? No, never. Am I okay with him being my backup? Yes. Do I like him as good as Marcus Mariota or Nick Foles or Colt McCoy as my backup? No, I don't. But somewhere on my list of backups, somewhere on my list of mid-tier backups, Geno Smith would slide right in there. And for 2 to 4 games, which is what Seattle had to do last year, they give you a chance. And Geno Smith for me does that. So those are some of the guys that I thought were standouts as far as just me talking about them. I'm right there with you on Tagovailoa. I've kind of seen enough, and I hate to give up on a guy, but me personally, I think 2 to 3 years in, if these rookie quarterbacks have had a chance to play and they're just not showing it, and they've had any kind of a decent roster. I mean, I can't say this about Justin Fields. He's not had a chance. But some of these other guys, if they've had any kind of decent roster and they're getting to play a lot and they're on their second or third season, I don't need that 4th or 5th year to see if this guy can play quarterback. I just don't. Some people do. Some people are like, okay, well, that's all right. They show the most improvement when they're in their 4th or 5th season or when they're at, game number 36 or whatever. Well, the good ones do. But the guys who sucked in the previous 32 games, they're probably going to continue to suck. It's just the news of it. So that arc that you see of improvement is usually for guys that have already been showing flashes all along anyway. It does not hold true for guys that have struggled their entire existence. So me personally, Tagovailoa, I have seen enough to kind of be willing to move on from him. If I were the Dolphins, they're not going to do that. Just like the Giants staked their entire reputation on Daniel Jones, the Dolphins have staked their entire reputation on Tagovailoa. And I think you mentioned it, their best bet. And again, not wishing anything ill here on Tagovailoa. Their best bet is if he gets injured and Bridgewater gets to come in and win a few games, and they don't have to explain why they have to move on from Tagovailoa because of his injury history instead of his performance on the field. And again, I certainly hope that does not happen to Tua. But the Dolphins have staked everything here on Tagovailoa, and they don't want to back out of it. That's why you see them investing so much money on the offensive line and giving up so much draft picks to get Tyreek Hill. Not only are they trying to make sure their quarterback has some stuff, but they're also trying to cover their own butt since they have literally staked everything here on Tagovailoa, including to some degree firing a head coach in order to make sure that Tagovailoa gets the chance to continue playing. Not the only reason they fired the head coach, but that certainly was in the mix there as well. Any more thoughts here on this particular tier of quarterbacks that we're looking at?
So I just kind of want to address the Ridder and Corral points that you made. And I'll just say up front, I had them initially in my top 50, but then just because of the potential that they had, and, I love Desmond Ridder. I liked him actually more than Malik Willis. I just think Malik Willis has higher upside in the terms of, like, he can use his legs more. And Ridder is not a slow quarterback. That's just not his forte. And I feel like, the passing game is trending towards more of a dual threat quarterback, which Ridder is, but Willis definitely more so. He's more that, like I said, Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson, type of guy that I think at his peak, I think Willis's peak is higher than Ritter's peak, and that's why Willis made the list over Ritter. But I love Desmond Ritter. I loved him coming out of the draft. I wished Washington had gotten him. Unfortunately, we didn't. I'm very excited to see Ritter play. Um, I just hope he's not a bust. He has that. He's got bust written on him. I just hope he's not. 'Cause like I said, I'm excited for him. And it's the same with Corral too. Like the dude is not fast. He's a smaller guy, but he's got a cannon arm, and he has a lot of potential. And he can succeed in this league. It's just, can he stay healthy? And can he kind of pull back a little bit when he needs to? I feel like that was one of the knocks on him coming out of college, that he just didn't know how to pull back. Whether it was like taking risks downfield or, taking shots when he unnecessarily when he didn't need to take them. So, and then, like I said, I was also looking at other backups. I'm like, I'd rather have them on my team as my primary backup than I would some of these younger guys that I feel like maybe, they're just not ready for the NFL, or they're just not NFL type quarterbacks, unfortunately.
So much to consider. We've tried to consider a lot of it. We could talk for hours more, but Robertson, thank you so much for being with us. Our audience, thank you for watching. We're going to continue to cover more of these quarterbacks, and you'll see these videos come out over the next couple of weeks on Phantom Sports and on Sports and Money. Robertson, tell everybody where they can catch your material at.
You can catch read my articles at phantomsportsindustries.com, and follow me on Twitter at RELVIAR99.
All right. And Joey does a lot of the videography work for us. A shout out to Joey. Thank you very much for making these videos look even better than they already do. So thank you, Joey. And everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great one. Bye.